Bine ați revenit la ultimul panel de discuții, The Importance of Belonging in Schools, Create a Culture of Belonging, care va și încheia evenimentul de astăzi. Panelul își propune să expună perspectivele internaționale despre starea de bine în școli și comunități, unde vor fi oferite exemple concrete pentru crearea și implementarea unei culturi organizaționale bazate pe apartenență. Îl invit pe scenă pe colegul meu, Vlad Ciurdar, moderatorul panelului.
Distinguished participants, I will start this speech by thanking Simona, who, through her generosity, offered me a precious gift of our time, of our days, her time. During this time spent in conversations about belonging, many principles and assertions were crystallized and resulting in inviting me here. And because we are talking about belonging, I will address a short word in Romanian to the teacher present here, because it's the language who let me express my feelings and give me the sense of belonging. Dragi profesori participanți, povestea apartenenței în școli, pentru mine, începe în această sală. În urmă cu câteva luni, pe scaunele pe care dumneavoastră stați, au fost elevii noștri ucraineni. Elevi veniți îndeoseb din zona Chievului și din sudul Ucrainei. Cu toate că m-am oferit să mă implic, am ezitat și am ocolit multă vreme această sală. Mie mi-ar fi revenit rolul de a preda poate cea mai ingrată dintre materii pentru copiii unui popor aflat în război, și anume istoria. Deci, împreună cu ei ar fi trebuit să răspundem la întrebarea cine suntem, la întrebarea cine sunt ei. Dar am trecut pragul și am început discuțiile. Vreau să vă spun că din sclipirile lor, la lecția despre națiune, despre această mască politică a unui popor, am primit cele mai mature și înțelepte definiții, dar evident și întrebări, într-o engleză aproximativă, cu un alfabet chirilic aproximativ, de data asta din partea mea, și am înțeles ceva mult mai important. Apartenența și chiar națiunea nu au atât legătură cu trecutul despre care le vorbeam eu, ci cu viitorul. Pentru că, și cu acest cuvânt am să îmi închei expunerea în limba română, nu contează atât de mult orice element am pune la oaltă, senzația că istoria se repetă, fiindcă istoria nu se repete, e o succesiune haotică de evenimente, cât contează natura umană. Deci, întrebându-mă acești copii dacă istoria se repetă, am spus nu, istoria nu se repetă. Oamenii sunt aceiași. Ei, și atunci mi-au spus elevii că de fapt apartenența lor și devenirea lor ca națiune are de a face cu viitorul, nu cu trecutul. Și tot în acea zi m-am întâlnit cu Simona pe coridor, care mi-a spus pentru prima dată despre proiectul de belonging, ca să vedeți ce frumoase coincidențe există în viață. Dear participants, I'm honored to introduce our distinguished guest from the United States. Susan Shapiro is an author, motivational speaker, education and training specialist with comprehensive experience in teaching, teacher training, curriculum development and programming. She has designed, developed and implemented life skill training programs for students and adults that have impacted the teaching and training educators in thousands of schools across the globe. Her training materials, books, curricula and student planners are used worldwide in schools, libraries and universities. Another distinguished guest online is Dr. Laura Turner-Essel. Laura Turner-Essel holds a PhD in counseling psychology and works at the intersection of mental health, social justice and community education. Currently, she serves as program manager in the Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Science at Stanford School for Medicine, where she facilitates workshops for the Belonging Projects, manages the clinical neuroscience immersion experience, and analyzes the qualitative research. She most frequently utilizes her training in mindfulness meditation and restorative cycle practices at home with her husband and 4 children. And on the stage, Edie Myhre, a sophomore studying neuroscience in the honors program and leadership program at American University in Washington, D.C. She's passionate about developing peer-to-peer mental health resources. She always had an interest in mental health and solidified her purpose in life when she became part of the 6 Feet Apart team during the COVID-19 pandemic 2 years ago. And last but not least, Simone Sawyer is a third-year doctoral candidate in the social and behavioral sciences within the field of public health at the George Washington University American Institute School of Public Health. Ms. Sawyer is also a graduate research assistant at the Center for Health and Healthcare in Schools in Washington, D.C. Under the advisement and leadership of Dr. Olga Costa-Price, Simone's work at the center focuses on developing a pathway for youth voice and leadership within the expansion of Washington, D.C.'s public and charter schools' behavioral health system. We are grateful to have Simone in our first part of our conversation, and then we will continue the session with Dr. Laura online and with Edie and Simone. I will address the first question to Susan Shapiro. Susan, we know that you are a member of TAIF, an NGO where Transylvania College is a member represented by Simona Baciu. Can you tell us more about this organization and why you seem so determined to focus on belonging?
Thank you, Vlad, and welcome everybody. I am glad to be here. I am sitting in my house in Washington, D.C., and I started this foundation, this nonprofit with Simona because there was a tremendous need based on a project that I randomly had started with my grandson. I am a 75-year-old grandmother of 5, and my son asked me in early 2020 if I would write a book with his son, Noah, on emotions. And Noah had never asked, he was 14 years old, and he had never asked anything like this before. And as a grandmother, I said, okay. And I started writing the book with Noah on emotions, and COVID appeared. And the entire situation in starting this book became a different focus. One, Noah, being 14 and a soccer player, had had enough of writing with me. So I had to be extremely creative. I called Simone off and said, what do I do? And what we decided upon was to create a team of students who could work on their stories during COVID. And these 8 students, and Edie is there, and Edie is one of them and became the leader of the group, we started to write a book together. I was the coach, and these students were writing their stories. They created a survey. They wanted a virtual museum that we created with an IT company in Cluj. It just started expanding. And 6 feet apart, and this book made me, Simone, and colleagues here in the United States aware, one, of the need of the mental health for students during this time while they were experiencing COVID, and also about the goals that we could attain in a belonging project. And what became a book became something far greater than a book. We recognized here early on here in the United States and early on in Romania the importance of belonging. And as Edie probably has told some of you, you've met her today, Edie became instrumental in the project, and I recognized the importance of belonging and the mental health aspects of it. So we decided to form a nonprofit here in the United States. I had been working with Simone for years in Romania. I know the culture. I love working in Romania. And so we decided if we wanted to do something that was bigger than any of us, it was including belonging and starting a nonprofit here. I also want to say, and this is a little out of the context, but important, I had seen for years Simone developing a program in Romania that we did not have here in the United States, and that what we can learn from you is crucial to this belonging project. What we have learned from what is created in your environment, even today, with the people online, the people there in Cluj, it is a joint program where we learn from each other. And as Simone probably has said today, that we are not only teachers, we are learners. In this program, I just want to thank you in Romania because we are learning from you, and our nonprofit is replicating what you have piloted and done in your country. So I applaud you. I'm grateful, and belonging is our main emphasis now in our nonprofit.
Thank you, Susan, for your intervention. I would like to continue with Dr. Laura Turner, a specialist researcher at Stanford Medical School. Dr. Turner-Essel, related with your experience in co-facilitating workshops for belonging project at Stanford School of Medicine, could you tell us more about this project and how do you see the connection with the student within project?
Of course, and hello everyone. Like Susan, I am very happy to be able to join you all today. I'm excited that you all are having this gathering. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, in the U.S., and as Vlad mentioned, I work with the Belonging Project at Stanford University. And the Belonging Project at Stanford serves as a repository for research and tools related to the importance of this felt sense of belonging, specifically for mental health and well-being. And the origins of that project, it was developed after an unfortunate string of student suicides on our campus. about 8 years ago, as well as other campuses around the United States. And I think that those incidents really started to make faculty and staff deeply aware that this feeling of disconnection and exclusion can be really devastating for students, especially when the group that they feel excluded from is a highly valued group for them, in this case, the campus community, and especially for those students who have based a large part of their identity on their membership in the institution, which, as you all know and can imagine, is the case for many university students and probably younger students as well. School is their entire kind of point of reference. And so to not belong there can have really tragic and devastating consequences for them. So we define belonging as experiencing a deep sense of acceptance and safety and being valued and feeling that you are able to contribute to an environment. And so the truth is that this sense of belonging is a universal need for human well-being, human flourishing. And our project hopes to share and promote the empirical research that's currently being conducted on this concept across disciplines. It's really exciting for us right now because we see this proliferation of research coming from a diversity of fields, including business, sociology, of course, but also areas like architecture, education, nursing, and of course, psychology and psychiatry. So our workshops help organizations and institutions recognize that belonging does not always just happen on its own. It can, though, be intentionally facilitated if people use mindful effort and they're informed about the factors that need to be in place to help create and cultivate that sense of belonging in their organization. And I think that the student within empowers young students to step up and lead in that cultivation of a culture of belonging within their own peer groups. And we believe that that's the most powerful application of this type of knowledge because it is being led by the very people who need it and who will benefit from it the most. So there's a really strong connection, and I was really honored to work with Edie this past summer.
Thank you. I would like to address a question to Edie. We know that you are working on a book called The Student Within. Can you tell us a little bit more about it and how the topic connects with belonging?
Yeah. First, I want to take a walk over here so I can wave at my people. Hi, Susan. Hi, Laura. Susan, I love you guys. A fun fact about Laura is that every week the best part of my calls were seeing what her pairing of earrings and shirts would be. Because let me tell you, they are always coordinated, and it must be rainy, because we would always say when it's rainy, you got to bust out the yellow shirt to bring the sunshine.
That's right.
I'll walk back over here. But yeah, the student within came to be, as Susan kind of gave some background about 6 Feet Apart and how my role kind of evolved. And then I took the leadership position and came on the board of TIEF. And as my role evolved in 6 Feet Apart, I ended up contributing a research on trauma, which went in the book. For those of you who were in my workshop, sorry for the repeat. Hi, Sylvia. But then I joined the Tapestry Intergenerational Education Board, and I kind of had this moment where I was like, I know I enjoy doing research, I know I enjoy doing writing, so what comes next? And that's when the blessing of Laura and the Belonging Project came to be, because I did some digging on Google and thought, hey, like, this would really fit. And I was passionate to find more about belonging because I came from an environment where in high school and where I lived, I didn't necessarily connect deeply to those around me, and I struggled. But then I was embraced into this 6 Feet Apart community and truly found what belonging felt like. And that led me to have a passion to replicate that feeling for others and really help other students elevate their voices to be able to communicate what they need to feel like they belong and feel connected in their communities, because I saw how it empowered me and how by getting that sense of belonging originally in the 6 Feet Apart group, how that allowed me to take the stepping stones that I did to get where I am sitting in front of you now. And I really wanted to be able to put that in a book from a student perspective, because I want every student to be able to have that community that elevates them, where they can do something great with their goals.
Thank you, Edie. Simone, we know that the studies and research you bring inclusion and diversity to this project. Can you give us some examples, please?
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and listening. I just love this idea of belonging because it's so important. As humans, we all want to belong, but for some reason, we all have a story or a time where we felt like we didn't belong, right? And so I'm really passionate about my research of creating spaces where people belong. So when I met this beautiful group of people, I felt like I belonged because they also wanted to understand belonging. And I started realizing through my research, a lot of the times people don't feel like they belong because of their differences, right? And there's beauty in our differences. A lot of the times we want to hide our differences. The world or other people make us feel like we need to be one way or a certain way. And we know differences exist, but we don't talk about them. We get uncomfortable, we get scared, or we isolate. And so when I saw the book, I loved the concept, and I want to do research that celebrates diversity, that brings young people and adults together, different ethnicities, different religions, different anything, fill in the blank, and let's talk about it. Let's celebrate it. Let's take time with each other. So that's what I've been doing with my research. Practically, one of the first things we do is we slow down. You have to slow down. I know that we're all busy and that it's lots of stuff on our plates, but when you slow down and you appreciate the diversity that each of us brings, it really makes a difference. You have to take time for connection. You know, do the icebreakers. Do stuff that will ask people questions that they usually don't get asked about. Ask them about their history. What makes them excited? What scares them? What makes them feel like they don't belong? Those are practical things, because then you start to realize, even though we all are different, we all want to belong. We all want to feel loved and supported, and we just need different strategies sometimes based on what's available to us to feel included. So that's the importance of diversity and inclusion and belonging in my research, is how do we celebrate differences, include people, so that we can all really feel like we belong.
Thank you. I want to propose in this panel 2 more questions, and because students and teachers are together, and our connection at internet is stable, I will start with our guest from online. So the first question: how does sense of belonging may improve workplaces, schools, and why not communities? Allow me to start with Susan. You are on mute, Susan. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
It's perfect now.
Okay, thank you. There are so many positives that have come out of what we're doing that I couldn't even name them all. I mean, the most important, if you said to me, what's most important, I would say respect. Moving into that realm, it covers all of us and all of our needs. It's universal. We all want to be respected, and modeling it. So I think that the question you asked, how does it embrace our world today? Our world is in such polarization and conflict that we have to take charge and make change. And I think what Laura was saying really hit me. It has to be through the peers and the Edies and the Simones of this world, because I feel in my generation, we have not done what's needed to be done. And we have to really look within ourselves and say, it's time to improve the social, emotional well-being. And if we really do, through a sense of belonging, we will improve the academics. Everything else will be easier. So, and that goes, I think Laura was touching on it. It goes to businesses. It goes to every one of us. When we walk outside the door, when we go into a shop, if we model behaviors and these students model them, it changes their lives. And I think Edie, I was proud of you. You are fantastic. Edie went, and I can tell you from the first time, we started 6 feet apart, and Edie thought she was going to show a little picture. And what this sense of belonging did to Edie, one person, look at Edie now and how she has impacted the lives of thousands. So if each of us takes the responsibility inwardly, we have a major role we can play. And Simone, you as well. I mean, each person that you affect ripples. So I say it doesn't matter what the profession is. It's the energetic feeling universally that we have to start rising to our higher selves and being kinder, more respectful, and showing more love. I hope that answers a part of it.
Thank you, Susan. Dr. Turner-Essel, how does the sense of belonging may improve workplaces, schools, and communities?
Yes, thanks. That's a great question. And at Stanford, we've looked at a lot of research. We've conducted our own on our campus in California and looked at some of the outcomes of belonging. And we've also examined research conducted around the country and around the world at schools and workplaces and in communities. And consistently, this data shows us that they have an increased overall sense of health and wellness, but also their health outcomes, their longevity, their immunity, everything is improved. They have increased productivity and work satisfaction, more interest in their day-to-day tasks, as well as large collective goals that they may have on a work team or in a community. And of course, with students, we see better academic performance and long-term success outcomes. In organizations, we even see increased respect for leaders and willingness to buy into the vision that our leaders have for us within institutions and organizations. And then on the flip side, of course, the inverse is true as well. So when people do not have a sense of belonging, they have increased stress, increased anxiety. We see higher rates of depression. We see, a lot of spikes in the mental disorders and pathologies that are often associated with stress and hostile environments. And then people experience a decrease in motivation to contribute or help others. And, even neurologically, we have compromise within our decision-making capacities, our abilities to concentrate, to focus, effort and productivity go down and plummet, and then our problem solving and higher level thinking is definitely impacted in a negative direction. So we see it from both angles. And then specifically with students, which we've looked at a lot of education research, we see that belonging matters in terms of students' classroom engagement, their ability to engage with the learning materials, their academic motivation, their levels of achievement, even bullying. There are decreases in the amounts of bullying among peers when there's a strong sense of belonging. I think we can all intuitively understand why that would be, but very interesting research just in the past few years on that. And then having a lower sense of belonging, again, impacts learning, memory, academic performance, and that's demonstrated over and over again. So I think there are some really concrete outcomes that we can look at as to why these things really matter in all of our facets of life.
Thank you. Edie and Simone, how do you think this project will impact schools all over the world, and why?
Yeah, so I think a big way I could see belonging and, if we're talking about the student within in particular making a difference within classrooms is getting teachers and students speaking the same language. A big goal of working hand in hand with Susan, Simona, and Laura on this is that this is the student within is looked on as a partnership with teacher within. So the practices kind of go hand in hand, because Simone and I had a wonderful discussion coming over here on the plane, in that there seems to be a disconnect between implementation in schools from higher up, if you will, and administration and teachers, and what students actually want, need, and how they want to see mental health practices carried out. And I think by elevating student voices in terms of what we actually need and want to see in order for us to best connect with our peers, our teachers, those around us, and being on the same, speaking the same language as our teachers and the people we're learning from, and setting that tone, that it's not kind of breaking down the levels of the power dynamic, that we're learning from each other, and really getting to the core of what both the teacher and the student want to feel. And I think that that's where the most effective spaces of belonging can be created, and drives why I want to continue to write from a student perspective.
Yes, and I agree with everything that everyone has said so far, so I can't add too much more, but I think I would say this has the opportunity to make an impact in the classroom and in the world, because it's going to make us want to show up. Like, so many things are happening in the world and in our classrooms that it makes you just want to stay at home and shy away and feel helpless. But I feel like when we create a sense of belonging across ages, teachers, students, across roles, parents, teachers, in the community, when we can create places where people feel like they belong, it makes them want to come and keep coming and bringing whatever they have to offer to that space. And that's what we really need going forward, is people to show up, because chimes are only going to get more challenging, but the more that we show up, the more that we show up with each other, the more that we feel like we belong, then the better able we will be able to face these issues together. So I think it's just really important for our now and our future.
Thank you. Thank you both. And because you took part at a workshop session, I would like to address an ending question in the room. I think some of the practical ideas might help us to understand how we can introduce belonging in communities, schools, and workplace. So, from the room, can someone share with us some practical ideas resulted from what you worked today in the workshops, please?
Vlad, I could start. I'm not in the room. But one of the things we're doing in a new edition of Teacher Within is introducing practical application for teachers, and we're in the process of finishing it up and hopefully getting it out soon. But that is our goal, is to make this practical and easy for teachers to use in the classroom with students. And if we have, as Edie was saying, the teacher within and the student within with joint messages, I think we have at least a start and something that can move on.
Thank you. Meanwhile, some initiative in the room. Any questions?
Bună ziua tuturor! Eu am ajuns la acest workshop puțin mai târziu, așa că am să vă împărtășesc ce fac eu la clasă cu copiii mei, pentru că este legat de emoții și de cum anume putem să le înțelegem și să le depășim. S-a vorbit foarte mult la această conferință de legătura dintre profesor și elev și de faptul că atât profesorii cât și elevii au un bagaj emoțional cu care vin în clasă. Și cum putem în clasă să ne începem activitatea și să lăsăm deoparte aceste bagaje emoționale, atât noi ca profesori cât și elevii noștri. Eu sunt învățătoare la clasele primare, la liceul Waldorf, și eu îmi încep ziua, nu în fiecare zi, dar cel puțin o dată pe săptămână. Avem un obicei de a ne întreba cum te simți azi. Este o întrebare atât de simplă, dar atât de profundă. Și durează, ce să vă spun, 15-20 de minute până când toate emoțiile negative sau pozitive, pentru că împărtășim și emoțiile pozitive, își fac loc în viața noastră și în clasa noastră, așa încât ne putem începe activitatea cu altă energie, știind unii de alții, conștientizând cum anume suntem azi și pornind de la o realitate comună. Mulțumesc!
Mulțumim și noi! If there are any other questions for our guests, please don't hesitate to ask.
So I have a question. I haven't really thought it out fully in my head, so I don't know how the phrasing is going to come out. But do you think this need for belonging is something that is transversal across cultures, or do you think that there's some need for contextualization, local contextualization? For example, like as a student reading this book, or as a teacher reading this book, how do you make sure that it's adapted to the local context, or is this just something that we generally feel as people in all cultures? Maybe something on that.
Yeah, I can start off a little bit, and then the rest of the panel can take it away. But a big part of discussion as a student within was how everyone's identity and background is different, right? And that affects the spaces where we feel like we belong. Not everyone is going to find where they best belong in the same places. Because we all have different environments in which we grew up, different experiences that shaped us, and that's okay. However, that's why in my research I identified 8 building blocks, which are safety, empathy, sympathy, compassion, respect, mutualism, value, and validation. So even though the spaces in which we belong or get that sense of belonging are diverse and different amongst all of us, I talk about these 8 building blocks because they're universal things that are practical to implement that can help create spaces where people feel accepted and the group can embrace people, things that are more universal that everyone wants to feel.
Yes.
Can I also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Simone.
No, I was just going to say, sorry, lots of technology. I agree that everyone needs to feel safe and belonging, and I think it comes across all cultures. And I think the one thing that I was thinking when as I was reading the book, that context still does matter, right? Like we have this all sense that we want to belong, but the first thing that I kind of thought about when I was reading and talking about the 8 building blocks, like you said, Edie, is like safety, right? And like I know some students I work with, they live in unsafe environments, and it's not their fault, but they're real realities where their safety is in jeopardy, right? And so I think a practical application is that we know we all want to belong, and also celebrating differences of why we might not feel like we belong, right? Asking the questions, a healthy curiosity with respect, right? I respect you no matter where you come from, and I respect that your need for safety might be different than my need for safety, right? And how do I share with you my need for belonging and what makes me feel like I belong and what makes you belong, and how can we create a space that appreciates both? Because no matter where we are, who we are, we want to belong, but the different strategies that we might need might look different, and that's okay.
I wanted to jump in briefly and just say, yes, I agree with both of those responses. And I love the question. I think the answer is yes and yes. I think that belonging is definitely universal. It serves an evolutionary purpose. As human beings, we just want to feel connected to other human beings, even in individualist societies. But I do think that cultural context is absolutely important. And so one of the conversations that Edie and I had frequently was about how you take some of these big universal concepts and make them meaningful to people in their cultural or social context. And that really requires the members of each community to take those ideas and make them their own and fit them into the cultural context that they know better than any of us can know. So you all will know in Romania, what does it mean to belong? And students will know from their family context, from their cultural context, what feels for them like acceptance and being valued. That might look very different than it would for me. Even from region to region, that can be very different. And so you really have to give people the opportunity to modify and almost customize these ideas so that they fit and work for them where they are.
Thank you for the intervention. Any other questions? If don't, I would like to close the session by thanking to our guests and to their precious interventions. Can wave at Laura.
Hello.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Trebuie să recunosc, a fost o reală plăcere pentru mine și sper că pentru noi toți să auzim perspectivele tuturor celor din panelul The Importance of Belonging in Schools, Create a Culture of Belonging. A fost o plăcere să ascult și discursurile din prima parte a evenimentului, precum și perspectivele care au conturat un plan de viitor pentru susținerea stării de bine în școlile din întreaga țară. Atelierele au fost cele care au venit cu exemple practice pentru misiunea pe care ne-am stabilit-o astăzi împreună. A fost o reală plăcere și să fiu prezentatorul evenimentului de astăzi și mă bucur că am învățat împreună despre cum putem aduce starea de bine în școli și despre cum putem crea o cultură a apartenenței. Acest eveniment nu ar fi fost posibil fără susținerea partenerilor, a colaboratorilor și a sponsorilor noștri. Și acum, la final, doresc să mulțumesc întregii echipe care a pregătit luni de zile acest eveniment absolut fantastic. Un rând de aplauze, doamnelor și domnilor, pentru Corina Chiorean, director de program Inim Institute, Carina Manea, project manager la Inim Institute, Otilia Calfa, coordonator program de training Inim Institute, Sonia Techereș, trainer Inim Institute, Sabina Pop, trainer Inim Institute. Mulțumim și tuturor voluntarilor de astăzi și nu în ultimul rând doresc să-i mulțumesc doamnei Simona Baciu, fondatorul Inim Institute, care ne-a îndrumat și ne-a oferit toată susținerea. O invit acum pe scenă.
Voi fi foarte scurtă. În primul rând vreau să vă mulțumesc că ați rezistat și că împreună am creat un sentiment de a fi împreună. Aș vrea să se ridice în picioare colegele mele, să le și vedeți. Corina, Carina, Sonia. Vă mulțumesc tare mult. Și pentru că ați văzut că afișul nostru este cu ceva baloane și are acolo câteva cuvinte, aș vrea să vă rog să ne gândim la începutul conferinței. Când v-am rugat să reflectați, cred că Elena v-a rugat să reflectați, care este intenția pentru care ați venit astăzi aici. Și aș vrea să luăm 10 secunde. Care este intenția cu care ați venit astăzi aici? Dacă vreți, puteți să închideți ochii, să o simțiți, să ne bucurăm de ea, pentru că a aparține înseamnă împreună. Iar pe fiecare scaun ați găsit ceva, nu-s de nuntă, îs de noi. Și aș vrea să vă luați sticluțele astea în mână. Și să vă gândiți la intenția voastră și să-i dăm drumul în lume să aparțină. Cât de mult putem. Vă mulțumesc. Vă mulțumesc. Să aveți un weekend plăcut, cu pace în suflet și multe baloane care vă ating. Mulțumesc.
you.